There is an official report that can be filed concerning your bank account with your personal details attached that you are never permitted to inspect. Serious. You will not be informed that it occurred. You cannot request a copy, and the teller at your own financial institution who is aware of it is legally prohibited from telling you. The legal framework of the Bank Secrecy Act prohibits financial institutions from disclosing the submission of a suspicious activity report. That is not a wild theory, but written statutory law that has been active for decades. Curious. Most people assume there is one specific figure that triggers all of this, which is $10,000. They believe if they exceed it, they are reported, and if they stay below it, they are untracked. That is incorrect, and believing that assumption is how well-meaning people get themselves into complications. The report everyone worries about is the routine one, while the report few people understand is the one that has no baseline dollar minimum whatsoever. Official standards confirm that suspicious activity reports have no minimum dollar threshold, meaning one can be generated on $800 or even $200. It is not initiated by a specific figure, but by a pattern, and the single most common way an honest senior creates that pattern is by trying to be cautious. The excessive caution is the trigger, not the physical amount itself, but the act of altering transactions due to anxiety about the rules. There are individuals in this country who have had their accounts reviewed for one primary reason. They heard about a guideline, felt anxious, and attempted to split things up. Every single one of them would have remained completely unnoticed if they had simply processed their funds normally. The $10,000 figure is discussed everywhere in news stories, online videos, and casual conversations across kitchen tables. Millions of people know that a threshold exists, but almost none understand what it actually does in practice. They know enough to feel anxious and not enough to remain safe, which is the worst possible level of information to possess. Meanwhile, the individuals who never get flagged are not executing anything clever, hiding money, or utilizing a loophole. They have simply structured their banking setup in a manner that gives automated systems nothing unusual to analyze. Every week, I examine the financial rules that quietly affect your life savings, and understanding these mechanisms prevents unexpected administrative delays with your hard-earned capital. To understand where things go wrong, we must examine what is actually being monitored, because there are two distinct reports that people confuse constantly. The first is the currency transaction report. When a physical cash transaction exceeds $10,000, your banking branch submits one as standard procedure containing your verified identifying details and transaction totals. This submission is entirely routine, serving as a standard filing rather than an accusation of wrongdoing, and nobody audits you simply because one was generated. Crucially, it applies exclusively to physical paper cash handled directly at a teller window. A written check, bank wire, or electronic transfer between your own personal accounts does not trigger it. The $10,000 baseline was established decades ago and has never been indexed for inflation. Years ago, that sum was meant to monitor exceptionally large physical cash movements, but today, economic inflation has pushed everyday transactions, like a used vehicle purchase or home repair, into that standard threshold. The second form is the suspicious activity report, which possesses no baseline dollar amount whatsoever. Automated compliance software continually monitors customer accounts, scanning for activity that deviates from your personal historical profile rather than activity that is simply large. When the software flags something as unexpected, a report is logged into a centralized federal database where it remains maintained for years. By federal statute, bank employees are strictly prohibited from notifying you about these filings to prevent bad actors from altering their behavior. However, the practical impact on an everyday consumer is that an official record can be created regarding your account within a government system, while every bank employee who knows about it is legally bound to remain silent. Consider how an honest individual accidentally causes one of these flags through the story of Elwood, a 74-year-old retired commercial driver. After his wife passed away, he sold her vehicle for just over $9,000 in physical cash. Aware of rumors surrounding the $10,000 rule, he felt uneasy about depositing the entire sum at once and wanted to avoid unnecessary paperwork. So, he took what seemed like a prudent step by depositing a portion on Tuesday and the remainder on Friday. What he actually executed has a formal legal classification known as structuring, which involves deliberately altering cash deposits to avoid routine reporting thresholds. Automated compliance software does not evaluate personal intent or clean motives. It analyzes pattern geometry. Two cash deposits landing just beneath $10,000 in close succession created an immediate system flag. Elwood faced no criminal charges, but weeks later, his regular monthly direct deposit was placed on an unexpected hold without any advance explanation from branch staff. For a family managing on a fixed budget, an unexpected account hold does not merely cause a minor inconvenience, but impacts every recurring automatic transaction simultaneously. Vehicle insurance drafts fail, utility payments bounce, and secondary fees accumulate from both the bank and the service providers. By the time the security review clears, the hold itself has cost substantial out-of-pocket money that no institution returns. That is the true consequence for average families: an unexpected freeze on funds they needed, with zero explanations available from local tellers. The safest protocol is summarized in one simple rule: process the deposit all at once. Put the complete sum in as one single transaction. Let routine paperwork proceed and bring verified documentation with you, such as a signed bill of sale or vehicle title copy, because written documentation resolves questions far more efficiently than verbal explanations. This brings us to the second major monitoring factor: your average balance trend. Banking institutions construct an internal profile detailing what typical financial activity looks like for your account specifically, including baseline income, recurring expenses, and average historical balances. Automated monitoring software evaluates whether a transaction is unusual for your specific profile, rather than evaluating the absolute dollar size. A busy retail business can process a large deposit without generating alerts, because that aligns with its active profile. Conversely, a retiree receiving predictable benefit deposits for a decade can deposit a fraction of that sum and trigger an internal review, because the software compares each transaction against individual historical baselines. Furthermore, there is a widespread myth circulating online that federal law caps how much money an individual can hold in a standard bank account. No such legal restriction exists, as Congress has never enacted a law capping personal bank balances. What actually exists are valid personal reasons to evaluate where your capital rests, such as avoiding account risk concentration, protecting against purchasing power loss from inflation, and staying within federal deposit insurance limits. If all your liquid funds reside within one single institution, an administrative hold locks access to your checking, savings, and certificates of deposit simultaneously. Additionally, money sitting in low-yield traditional savings accounts loses real purchasing power whenever inflation outpaces annual interest yields. Consider Delene, a 69-year-old retired teacher who deposited her late husband's life insurance payout directly into the primary account she had maintained for decades. Because that single deposit was immense compared to her routine pension checks, compliance software flagged the sudden baseline shift and initiated a standard review. Every account under that institutional roof was temporarily restricted while she was trying to arrange funeral services. Her funds were eventually released in full once documentation was verified, but the review required several business days. Establishing a secondary account at an entirely separate financial institution prevents this exact issue, keeping daily living expenses fully operational while any large transfer clears. Major financial distributions, such as required minimum distributions, pension cash-outs, inheritances, or real estate proceeds, are almost always known weeks in advance, meaning you can route those funds intentionally to avoid daily operational disruption.
If your account ever undergoes an internal review, you may notice subtle warning signs, such as a recurring deposit being delayed for several business days, a teller consulting management over a standard transaction, an official notice requesting updated identification details, or an unexpected card decline on a basic purchase. If this occurs, remain calm, as branch personnel are legally prohibited from discussing internal reporting filings. Focus instead on practical management by ensuring you maintain an active secondary account elsewhere and compiling supporting paperwork for any major deposits completed over the past year. Additionally, ask your financial institution to add a designated trusted contact to your profile, which gives the bank a verified party to reach out to if unexpected account activity raises routine operational questions. Individuals who avoid account flags maintain a simple and effective financial structure. Their primary daily account remains completely consistent with predictable transfers that align with their income. Any unusual transaction is directed to a separate secondary account so it does not disrupt daily living expenses. Their total assets are distributed across more than one financial institution to avoid single-point failure and keep balances within federal insurance limits. Finally, all supporting paperwork for major deposits is filed away in a dedicated folder during the exact same week the transaction occurs. To safeguard your own finances, follow a clear 5-step checklist. First, if all your financial accounts are consolidated at one bank, establish a secondary account elsewhere this month to ensure an operational hold cannot restrict your total liquidity. Second, verify whether the total balances held at any single bank sit safely within official federal deposit insurance coverage limits. Third, if you anticipate receiving a major financial distribution, select the specific target account where the funds will land before the transfer occurs. Fourth, if you receive a substantial sum of physical cash, process the complete deposit in one single transaction and never split deposits to stay beneath thresholds. Fifth, retain clear documentation for every major deposit, such as bills of sale, estate letters, or settlement statements. Remember 3 core words: consistent, separated, and documented. Keep your primary account consistent, keep your assets separated across institutions, and keep your paperwork documented to ensure compliance monitoring systems pass over your accounts without disruption.